Euzubillahimineşşeytanirracim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Rabbi şrah li sadri ve yassir li emri ve hlul ukdeten min lisani yefkahu kavli. Selamünaleyküm ve rahmetullahi ve berekatuh. We are using a new computer, so if there's any sound issues, please let us know. Otherwise, I will assume that everything is fine. So last week, we continue our discussions about the revelation and then inspiration. And this week we will start talking about under the text we left off. It is about the prophet. So our traveler will continue his journey looking for the revelation. So he came to the conclusion that the universe tells me that the creator of this universe, whoever made this universe, and whoever made me with these questions, should speak to me. He does speak to me through my feelings and so on and so forth, just like he speaks through the creation. But I also expect a direct speech, which is not shaped, colored, bended through my, let's say, the nerves. So he's still looking for a direct speech of the creator, the revelation, and he will come to prophet. He will realize some people actually claiming that they received the speech of God. So we stopped there, and we thought it is a good place to start maybe more formally talk about the prophethood. Because the idea of prophethood, although it sounds simple, especially if you come with some the cultural loadings, we all know what prophet is, at least we assume. We all know why we need prophet. We all know that we have to follow prophet, whatever. All these package that comes with our the background. But when we start thinking about it, we quickly realize that it's not actually that obvious. Where did this idea of prophet come from? What do we understand from prophet, first and foremost? It becomes a little bit complicated. So we thought maybe we can spend some time studying the prophethood itself, the idea of prophethood. And inshallah, to do this, we will start reading from the 11th word. And the part of the 11th word, actually, not the entire 11th word. And then once we are done with this, we will continue with some other texts and so on. But the idea, the topic will always be the prophethood. With that being said, I will leave it to our beloved moderator, Abdurrahman. And maybe we can actually start with querying, like asking people their initial thoughts about prophethood.
So, initial query about prophethood.
What's the query?
Question.
What is your query?
Oh, what's the query?
Yeah.
What do you think about when you think of prophethood? When you think of prophethood, is it relevant? Not relevant? Do you care? Does your mind go anywhere, or is it just like,
Prophet should be the best of the best, I guess. A teacher, somebody who shows me by example, somebody who I should want to be like. Should feel closeness to them. I should feel admiration, and that should be they should be a benchmark for me to look at of like where I want to be.
Okay. I like that. Others?
I very much agree with what you said about like that one person that leads by example. To add on to that, I think it's someone when we define prophet, I guess the way I would think of it is a person that receives revelation. And I think that a prophet and in their prophethood, they should kind of be or help us interpret the revelation by example. So it's how do we live revelation as opposed to just like understanding it.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Kadir, can you pass the
All of these are like really good points, and I agree with. But one point that personally think about when prophethood comes to mind is someone who is in direct contact with the creator, someone who receives revelation. Like, what is the difference between a normal human being and a prophet? Is for me, who is receiving that revelation, the message that he receives is directly from the creator, and he is giving out that knowledge to the people. Like, he's giving that knowledge to the ummah. So he is a teacher who is in contact with like the creator. That is how I would see the prophet as.
But we've been studying for weeks now how Revelation speaks to you, or how creation speaks to you, how you can read creation. Angels even, angels are bringing revelation to you directly. So then, do you need the prophet? Like, where does the prophet? Do you still search for this prophet? Like, do you wake up and think, I need a prophet?
I'm I'm a little confused by that comment because I thought revelation was for the elect, and I thought we clarified that the revelation was only for the prophets, and what we got was inspiration.
Is that the conclusion we came to? I don't. No. So, I mean, let me not say no. What I understood, um, is, I mean, whenever we read the Quran, first and foremost, that's revelation, right? And that's revelation I'm receiving. That's very direct revelation in terms of speech. And then in terms of like the distinctions last week, I know Brother Yusuf tried hard there, and I can't say I'll do anything better. So I can't go into what's revelation for a prophet versus us and thing like that. But revelation is something we all experience. It's not only the prophet gets revelation. Then that's what the whole purpose of the Quran not being created even comes down to, as far as I understand. Qadir, as a getting into the hot topics.
I mean, that is, I think, why we started prophethood for me. And then, in a sense, is like maybe that revelation is applicable to every single person. Like for me, the revelation that I receive, or like that I understand from something specific. Personally, I would feel that is only applicable to me. I wouldn't say like Brother Abdurrahman should exactly feel it the same way. But as compared to the prophet, I would say like the revelation that he is receiving, it is for all human beings that would come after him. So that is the biggest differentiation. And I think there were two types of like in revelations I'm failing to understand, but like one was direct communication and what was one something that comes into your mind. So I think that is where I would differentiate, as well as like for the prophet is it was like direct communication. For us it is something that comes to our mind, or like an idea, but you cannot be certain like every single idea is like that. So that's how I understand.
Okay.
But again, I thought that Imam Nusi made the distinction in that way, that revelation was the message that directly comes from God. Like you're saying, the Quran, the way the Quran that we have now is what was revealed to the Prophet. And what like when we read it, whatever we gain from it, that's the inspiration that we receive from Allah. Because that's how Imam Nursi divided it. With the first part was a revelation that comes to the few elect people directly from Allah with the mediation, like someone in between, which was Angel Jibraeel. And for us, whatever inspiration we get, I thought that was like whatever communication, whatever speech of the Creator that we receive directly in our, like whatever our understanding is, or with ilham in a way. I thought that was the
Was that the conclusion? That
between ilham and wahi. Like I'm getting confused here now.
So I don't know what was the conclusion for you,
Nah,
but
it
at
wasn't
least
for me that.
what I understand from text, so the text does not talk about, like didn't talk about Quran or any scripture. The text talked about the need for revelation. We all have the need for revelation. Yes, that's true. And we share some, you know, the let's say needs that this revelation should fulfill. And we also have common expectations about the revelation. Revelation should speak to humanity. Revelation should be coming from the Creator. Revelation should be a response to our asking and so on and so forth. These are all shared things. We all have that. And we need this revelation. And then when we look how Creator speaks to us, which is inspiration, we see that it is not that much reliable because of the, you know, the shape I give to this inspiration. When even if it is reliable, sometimes it is reliable, it is only applicable to me, to myself within this time. It is bounded by space and time and so on and so forth. So this is what I get as an inspiration. So I still need something that I say, okay, it's not shaped by my character, my life, and so on and so forth, but something pure I need. Imam Nursi was saying the revelation is pure, but inspiration is colored and shaped by the person. So I still need something pure that I don't have. I need something that is applicable to not only me, but everyone else, but also every time and so on, which I don't have. I still have this need. I want to make sense of the entire universe, everything that happens to me, which the inspiration I received, the ilham that I received, the ideas and so on and so forth, only partially answer some of them, not all of them. This is my reality, right? I mean, do you answer, like I receive answers to all your problems through your feelings, your ideas, whatever you read and so on and so forth? No. So you still in a desperate need of somebody needs to explain this to me. We still have this. And then comes prophet with revelation. So revelation is never in the vacuum. We have the need for revelation, and it comes with prophet. That's what I understand from text. That's the reason that the next step in the journey is prophet.
okay, we can give the mic, but before before we even go there, I would say I think maybe, and that's why I see it's important to now go into the topic of prophethood. I think last week, personally, it felt external and not too relevant to me, making these distinctions on what revelation is, what ilham is. Reading Quran, it's ilham versus revelation. Honestly, it's let me be rebellious and say, let's not worry about it. I think it's not important. Maybe today, let's discuss what a prophet is, what our needs are, what we're looking for, and maybe what Nursi is explaining. I'm sure it fits in there, and maybe it'll help us to understand. But instead of trying to like see what the distinction is. But yeah.
It's just a quick comment because I think it was beautifully put the way Brother Bigkan said it, and it's way much more clear to me, and it makes like it ties everything beautifully because perhaps what we've been looking or what we've been trying to experience through the traveler, right? The way the clouds speak to you, the mountains speak to you, all that can be inspiration. So we still need like the revelation, the message from Allah that is pure, that can be explained to us in a language that we can understand and that we can be secure that this is what our Lord is telling us and this is what he wants from us. So I think that again it's very it falls that we're talking about prophethood today.
Yeah. I also think like the problem with I mean, coming back to my own needs, yes, I could make the idea that there should be ones who understand this revelation much more than me or the speech much more than me. But I would also want to be able to be in communication with my creator as well. And I guess in that sense that would be ilham, but I mean, you're calling it ilham, you're not calling revelation, but then it feels like to reach God, I must go through a prophet only, and that's like my only way. I don't know if that's the purpose there. Like, I don't think it's trying to restrict us in that sense. Yeah, but
I think if we again start such a journey with a heavy package, that there's Quran, how am I going to read it? How am I going to understand it? And so on and so forth. Then you already assume that you completed the journey. And the end of the journey, you found your answer, which is Quran and so on. So if we take this text that we've been studying as, okay, I will read it, and now it's talking about how to, what is the difference, the technical difference between the prophet bringing the Quran and I'm opening the page of the Quran and reading and so on and so forth. Like right now, there's no Quran in front of us in this journey. We just have this need for the speech of God. There must be somewhere the speech of God. I have this need. So whether you can read it yourself, and where did you come up with this idea of that you will read it? You just have the need for speech. And, again, it's not about the naming, whether it is inspiration or revelation and so on and so on. You have something that your creator is talking to you through your senses. This is right? If this is enough for you, then you don't need to search for anything else. You can say that, oh, my creator, I have some such friends. They say, I have my creator talking to me already. He's the maker of this universe, myself. Why do I need an intermediary or whatever? I know such people. If this is good enough for you, then good enough for you. But to me, it is never, ever good. Almost every day, I find myself, somebody needs to explain this to me. It doesn't make sense. This is me. So, like, instead of trying to put some rules and shapes, do I have to go to the prophet to understand my creation? Just look at your reality. Forget about, thinking about some hypothetical scenarios or rulings. What is your reality? If your current state is good enough for you, you don't need to search for anything. Who am I to tell you that, oh no, this is inspiration, you need revelation? You wouldn't even understand what I'm talking about. I'm already content with whatever you call it as the inspiration, you would say. But for me, this is not the case. And I see the other human beings as well. This is not the case for sure. Sometimes, the ideas passing through my mind, they make me crazy. I cannot make sense of them. They are so encrypted sometimes, to me at least. Some people get literally, the crazy out of them. Anyway, we still need a key to open this lock. of the universe, and we're just looking for that. So that's the state. The question is, but do I need this person who lived in whatever? No, we just have the need for now, and let's see whether this need is satisfied or not. Let's, follow this story of the Nursi rather than writing a new story.
Okay, then with this complicated start to the discussion, inshallah, we can start the story on a blank slate, some form of blank slate, with the 11th word. Since you have the mic, would you like to read, or if not, we can.
I know somebody who wants to read, but
You can give it to Zaha if she'd like to read.
both we can stop when it's
Inshallah. The 11th word. In the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate. By the sun and its glorious splendor, by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it shows the sun's glory, by the night as it conceals it, by the firmament and its wonderful structure, by the earth and its wide expanse, by the soul and the order and proportion given it. Brother, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the wisdom of the world, and the riddle of man's creation and the mystery of the reality of the prescribed prayers, then consider this short comparison together with my own soul. One time there was a king. As wealth, he had numerous treasuries containing diamonds and emeralds and jewels of every kind. Besides these, he had other, hidden, wondrous treasuries. By way of attainment, he had consummate skill in strange arts, and encompassing knowledge of innumerable wondrous sciences, and great erudition in endless branches of abstruse learning. Now, like every possessor of beauty and perfection, wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, that glorious king wanted to open up an exhibition and set out displays within it, in order to make manifest and display in the view of the people the majesty of his rule, his glittering wealth, the wonders of his art, and the marvels of his knowledge. And so that he could behold his beauty and perfection in two respects. The first respect, so that he himself could behold them with his own discerning eye. The other, so that he could look through the view of others. With this purpose in mind, the king started to construct a vast and majestic palace. He divided it into magnificent apartments and dwellings, and decorated it with every sort of jewel from his treasuries. And with his own hand, so full of art, adorned it with the finest and most beautiful works. He ordered it with the subtlest of the arts of his wisdom, and checked it out with the miraculous works of his knowledge. Then, after completing it, he set up in the palace broad tables containing the most delicious of every kind of food and every sort of bounty. He specified an appropriate table for each group. He set out such a munificent and artful banquet that it was as though the boundless, priceless bounties he spread out had come into existence through the works of 100 subtle arts. Then he invited his people and subjects from all the regions of his lands to feast and behold the spectacle. Later, the king appointed a supreme commander, peace be upon him, as teacher, to make known the purposes of the palace and the meanings of its contents, to describe its maker and its contents to the people, make known the secrets of the palace's embellishments, teach what the arts within it were pointing to, and to explain what the well-set jewels were, and the harmonious embroideries, and to explain to those who entered the palace the way in which they indicated the perfections and arts of the palace's owner, and to inform them of the correct conduct in beholding them, and to explain the official ceremonies as the king, who did not appear, wished them to be. The teacher and instructor had an assistant in each area of the palace, while he himself remained in the largest apartment among his students, making the following announcement to all the spectators. He told them, "O people, by making this palace and displaying these things, our Lord, who is the king of the palace, wants to make himself known to you. You, therefore, should recognize him and try to get to know him. And with these adornments, he wants to make himself loved by you. You, too, make yourself loved by him by appreciating his art and admiring his works. Also, he shows his love for you through these bounties that you see, so you should love him too by obeying him. And through these bounties and gifts which are to be seen, he shows his compassion and kindness for you, so you should show your respect for him by offering thanks. And through these works of his perfection, he wants to display his transcendent beauty to you, so you should show your eagerness to see him and gain his regard. And through placing a particular stamp and special seal and an inimitable signet on every one of these adorned works of art that you see, he wants to show that everything is particular to him and is the work of his own hand, and that he is single and unique and independent and removed. You therefore should recognize that he is single and alone, and without peer or like or match, and accept that he is such. He spoke further fitting words to the spectators like these concerning the king and this station. Then the people who had entered the palace separated into two groups. The first group, since these people had self-knowledge, were intelligent, and their hearts were in the right place, when they looked at the wonders inside the palace, they declared, "There are great matters afoot here." They understood that it was not in vain or some trifling plaything. They were curious, and while wondering, "I wonder what the talisman to this is, and what it contains." They suddenly heard the speech the master and and instructor was giving, and they realized that the keys to all the mysteries were with him. So they approached him and said, "Peace be upon you, O master. By rights, a truthful and exact instructor like you is necessary for a magnificent palace such as this. Please tell us what our Lord has made known to you." First of all, the master repeated the speech to them. They listened carefully, and accepting it, profited greatly. They acted as the king wished, and because the king was pleased becoming at their becoming conduct and manners, he invited them to another special elevated ineffable palace. And he bestowed it on them in a way worthy of such a munificent king, and fitting for such obedient subjects, and suitable for such well-mannered guests, and appropriate to such an elevated palace. He made them permanently happy. As for the second group, because their minds were corrupted and their hearts extinguished, when they entered the palace, they were defeated by their evil, commanding souls and took notice of nothing apart from the delicious foods. They closed their eyes to all the virtues and stopped up their ears to the guidance of the master, peace be upon him, and the warnings of his students. They stuffed themselves like animals, then sank into sleep. They quaffed elixirs which had been prepared for certain other matters and were not to have been consumed. Then they became drunk and started shouting so much they greatly upset the other spectating guests. They were ill-mannered in the face of the glorious maker's rules. So the soldiers of the palace's owner arrested them and cast them into a prison appropriate to such unmannerly people. O friend who is listening to this story with me, of course you have understood that the glorious Creator built this palace for the above-mentioned aims. The achievement of these aims is dependent on two things. The first, the existence of the Master, peace be upon him, whom we saw and whose speech we heard, because if not for him, all the aims would have been futile. For an incomprehensible book with no author consists only of meaningless paper. The second is the people listening the master's word and accepting them. That is to say, the master's existence is the cause of the palace's existence, and the people's listening to him is the cause of the continuation of the palace's existence. In which case, it may be said that if it had not been for for the master, peace be upon him, the glorious king would not have built the palace. And again, it may be said that when the people do not heed the master's, peace be upon him, instructions, the palace will of a certainty be transformed and changed. Friend, the story ends here. If you have understood the meaning of the comparison, come and behold its reality.
Thank you for that beautiful reading. You know, it was long. This, I think, is a deceptively sounds simple, but I think we could spend so much time on each paragraph here of the story. But before we go through it, I'm curious what anyone's initial thoughts are, what they're thinking. Does the story, I mean, first of all, does the story make sense? There's a palace, has many rooms, there's a king. The king wants to show display his wealth, display the beauty that he owns, and then the palace has many rooms and I guess like apartments or something similar to that. And then to show it, like he invites people in, and then to show it, he also has a supreme commander, or like this teacher, this master, who goes in the biggest room, and he's talking about the palace and what it is there for, and about the king and what the people should be doing. And then now there's two groups. One group is kind of, you know, I mean, he uses terms there, which I think it would be nice to go into, but one group is kind of, let's say, more pure of heart, you know, and the other group is more heedless, not listening, and they have different approaches to it. So I think first, before we go through it, I'm curious what people's thoughts are about the story. If the story makes sense, does it sound like that's what we live in, the world we live in? I don't know, other thoughts?
So while reading, I think I was understanding it a little bit and then I tripped, which is where he says the glorious creator built this palace for the above mentioned aims. The achievement of these aims is dependent on two things. The first, the existence of the master whom we saw and whose speech we heard, because if not for him, all the aims would have been futile. So I just wanted to like clear this up because it says for an incomprehensible book with no author consists only of meaningless paper. Is it like saying like Allah created this world but with no one to explain if no one to explain it and what it consists of and what it like contains, like it wouldn't have been useful, right? Like a create like because it says, right, it's incomprehensible book with no authors. Like is he saying that like it doesn't appear like it has an author, and therefore we need someone to explain the book because otherwise it would have been incomprehensible, and that's what the prophet is for.
Yeah, exactly. I think you answered it. Yeah. Also,
Does your translation say author? Mine says teacher, which would give it a different meaning.
it says
Who explains?
Yeah, but the quote was, "For if an incomprehensible book has no teacher, it consists only of meaningless
right.
paper."
Actually, it should be teacher. Yeah. Doesn't.
Together.
Okay. Do you also read your hand or no? Okay. Yeah. Because I mean, as you were saying, author. Because yes, without a teacher, then you don't understand what it is, and if you don't understand what it is, then it just stays as an incomprehensible book. Yeah. Next one too was like continued existence, meaning that the people need to exist as well. But even before we go there, I think let's go back all the way to the beginning. And I think we can start from the verse because Nursi, he just throws a verse in the beginning, and I think at the very least, like we should just spend just a minute thinking about why he might have mentioned this verse and what this surah and what we can learn from it. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, by the sun and its glorious splendor, by the moon as it follows it, by the day as it shows the sun's glory, by the night as it conceals it, by the firmament and its wonderful structure, by the earth and its wide expanse, by the soul and the order and proportion given it. So Shams, Surah Shams. So, I mean, from the outset, it seems, this is speaking of creation, the palace that we're seeing. It's kind of building this idea of the palace, and the rest of the surah, I think, continues like this. So Nursi is interpreting these verses as, like the palace. God is speaking of the palace that He has created, and also now what He has appointed, I guess, a teacher for it. But going into the first paragraph, it says, if you want to understand a little about the talisman of the wisdom of the world and the riddle of man's creation and the mystery of the reality of the prescribed prayers, then consider the short comparison. So I don't know, is it going to go into the prescribed prayers later?
So
Is
this,
that
the word is a very long one.
okay?
Which covers many things.
Yeah.
It's not only about the prophet, even with this story, the prophethood is just part of it at the
Okay.
core for what we've read so far. But then it will become about other stuff as well, the relationship between human and his Rabb, and so on. So, and we will not study that aspects. We will only focus on prophethood.
Okay. So skipping 2 paragraphs, then there's the paragraph that says, now, like every possessor of beauty. So it's talking about the king who has a lot of wealth and art and knows a lot of things. He's encompassing a lot of wondrous sciences. And now, like every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, that glorious king wanted to open up an exhibition and set out displays within it. I think this is a very, I mean, let me not say anything. What do you think of this when you hear that, like every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to see and display his own beauty and perfection, and he wants to open up an exhibition? It doesn't make sense? It resonates? You have qualms about it?
Obviously, you have.
Oh, I feel it's a very human emotion. Like when somebody is good at something, or any person, they would want like other people to know. And it is like I resonated with it very much, like how it is said. But I just have like one little problem. Is like, is it talking about the creation and the creator as well? Like,
The king is the creator, yeah.
yeah. So you can clarify it for me, anyone. But it feels like that is a human emotion. Like the creator would be above all of that. Like the creator wouldn't need to show anything that or he has made. Like he doesn't have any need for that. That is my human need or desire to show off what I've done or what I have achieved. So that is how I
And before Ahmed, you didn't say it. And then he actually even elaborates on this. He says the first respect that this looks to is so that he himself could behold them with his own discerning eye. Like he could see, so he could behold his own beauty and perfection with his own eye, and the other so that he could look through the view of others to behold that beauty and perfection. So he doesn't even say that. He elaborates further on that feeling. So Ahmed, go ahead.
So I feel like personally, like as the story was going, I thought this was going to be like a lesson by Imam Nursi about how these humanly desires we have to show off and stuff. And honestly, like as soon as I read the Supreme Commander, peace be upon him, it was like, okay, plot twist. So personally, yeah, like the way he starts describing the how every possessor of beauty and perfection wants to display it, it seemed very human. Like Kadir said, like this is something that I thought this was some sort of desire that we were supposed to cover up. Like we were not supposed to have these things because these are feeding your ego in a sense. But I guess like it's okay for the creator because takabbur is only for the creator. Like so like up until that point it was concerning, but for some reason it's making sense if you say these things for the creator.
Yeah.
Because every beauty, everything, every perfection is from him.
Yeah. I mean, Ibn Nursi continues. He says, with this purpose in mind, the king started to construct a vast and majestic palace. Like he's literally saying, this is why God created it. It's very explicit. Like he's not
Because-
holding back, right?
Yeah, if I like if I did something and I'm trying to display it, I'm trying to claim it for myself, I believe that would be wrong because it's not from me, it's from the creator. Like every perfection is from the creator. But if the creator himself does it, then it's a completely different scenario. And I feel like then it slowly starts making sense.
Before I even let Brother Recon speak, because I think this is interesting. I think we can go with one way. Yeah, Nursi is building like a story of what a god is, starting from God, saying God is like a human, I guess, wants this and wants that, and then that's why he built this. It sounds almost like a fable story we might see in like a Bible or something. But I mean, from all of our studies, we've kind of been trying to learn the methodology, and this is like the goal is to learn the methodology of how do we read the Quran, how does Nursi read the Quran. He puts this verse in the beginning. How do we understand this verse? That's talking about building all of these things. I think if we try to look with that perspective, we might start seeing, is it really building a story from God, or is it actually something I'm experiencing? But
So maybe I can continue from where you left. If we look at the ayah that he shares, it talks about the everything that we observe, the sun, stars, moons, and so on and so forth. And then start talking about whoever created them in such a way, whoever made them with such and such, the beauties. There's this such a the ayah, and then what we read so far, it's a story that metaphorically explains the Imam Nursi's understanding of from this ayah, his conclusions. In the next part of the text, when he talks about the reality, he will explain it further. So I personally apologize that we don't have time to read the rest of the text, but it's very similar to what we studied last a few weeks. He says, if we look at this universe, we really see something like a palace. And then in this universe, we see all these different artwork. We see all these different sciences emerging out of it, right? It's an information rich, knowledge rich, the art rich creation in front of us. This is what we see, author says, the Imam Nursi says. So if we shouldn't forget that the moment we start talking about the creator from his perspective, we cannot take any steps there. Like we cannot understand things. All we can do is just memorize, as like you reminded us. Oh, but takabbur is only for creator. Let's repeat this and feel good. The problem is with trying to talk about a creator that we cannot. So this is never the methodology. Okay? The method is looking at the creation and try to understand what this creation tells us. It's all about creation and our understanding. Even when we talk about the creator, it is from our perspective, what we understand about the creator with creator, right? So we shouldn't forget that. Otherwise, we will just speculate. Or maybe creator created this way and then may put these things for this reason and so on and so forth. We will just speculate. Yes, Imam Nursi gives this story to explain his understanding, but we should work backward. Meaning, what we see here, do we see a palace? That's the question. What kind of palace we see? And the things that we see in this palace, all this artwork and so on and so forth, what does it remind us, tells us? Which human emotions or ideas activated when we look at these things in the creation, in this palace? So we say, for instance, the creator is wise. What do we mean? Do we mean there's a guy who is so clever? Or do we mean wherever I look in this creation, I see wisdom? Or let's put it even that way. Wherever I look at the creation, something in me, which I call wisdom, triggered. I say, oh yeah, this aspect of the creation, it's about the wisdom, I say. There is a wisdom. That's what it means, there is a wisdom. When I say there is something beautiful, what do I mean? This flower is beautiful, I say. What do I mean? How do you define beautiful? It means when you look at the flower, something with you, which you call as beauty, is activated. Right? You say, okay, I find this thing attractive. It's attracting me. So this is beauty that we call. And then when I see this beauty, I ask the question, who is the source of this beauty? Or who is the source of this wisdom? Right? And I go through La ilaha illallah. This is always what we should be doing. Whatever we study, go through La ilaha illallah. We have this palace, we have this artwork, and I ask, who is the artist? I see the wisdom. Who is the source of this wisdom? And when I say nothing in the creation is the source of this wisdom, there must be an absolute one who can give rise to this wisdom. This sentence, there must be an absolute one who can create this wisdom that I see. This sentence, I give a name to this sentence, which I say, all wise one. All wise one means there must be an absolute creator who is the source of every wisdom I see in this creation. That's what it means, all wise one. Otherwise, you cannot, as Kadir rightly pointed out, you cannot think of human wisdom and then make it bigger and bigger and bigger and say that this is the creator. You cannot do that. It doesn't, like, even if you try to do that, it wouldn't mean anything to you. You would just memorize something. But you say there's the wisdom in the creation, and the source of this wisdom must be the absolute one, then it means something to you. Go through the same methodology. We see this artwork and so on and so forth. There must be an absolute artist, I say. Right? When he talks about these human emotions, right? He says, who created these emotions? Who created the idea of, I want to be known? You say, you know, I have this talent. I can write beautifully. And I want other people to read and understand it. That's what you say, right, Zaha? That's how she explained herself. And Abdurrahman says, wait a second, Zaha. Who created this feeling in you? Is it you that who wants to be known? And then Zaha says, oh, I understand. There must be an absolute creator who created this feeling in me, feeling of being known. For that reason, I say, oh, creator must want to be known. This is how I understand it. I'm not trying to imagine a creator who creates beautiful things and want other people to see it. No, I say when I look at the creation, this feeling in me is triggered. As just like I say, this is beautiful, there must be a beautiful creator. The same way I say, whenever there is something cleverly made, the artistically made, I have this feeling to be known. So I say there must be the maker of this artwork I see is the one who creates this feeling in me. When I put it into a name, I'll take this long sentence and give it a name, I say the creator wants to be known. Does it make sense?
For me, it makes sense when we talk about seeing beauty and then understanding that the source of this beauty is an absolute creator who we can say is well, if he's the source of it, he is the most beautiful, and he is a beautiful creator. But when we talk about something like wanting to be known, that feels a bit different than the attributes like the all-knowing, the all-seeing, the
Do you think you can say the creator likes beauty?
yeah.
The creator wants beauty?
I guess so. But then on that same, with that perspective, because we have a feeling of wanting to be known, is that how we're trying to understand a creator who also wants to be?
So again, the conclusion shouldn't be, at least to me, that creator, just like I want to be known, creator also wants to be known. The conclusion is the feeling I have that I want to be known, it's not my feeling. I didn't create it. Whoever created all these beautiful things, the artwork that I make, whoever created this, he is the one who created this feeling in me as well.
But is that a safe perspective when there are feelings that we might have that
Whatever feelings you have, so that's the reason you're not attributing these feelings to the creator. You're saying that there must be a source of this feeling I have, which is the absolute one who creates everything. You're not saying that the creator is feeling the same thing. You're not saying this. You're not imagining a creator who is feeling something. You're just saying that whatever the feeling I have, he must be the source of it.
No. Would you be able to explain it again? Or maybe differently? Because it seems it seems very confusing. Sometimes it's like you're saying the same thing, and sometimes it's like I didn't understand what you just said. Like
we have a negative example, then it's a hard, like you could say, oh, but because most of the time we do learn like the good things are from Allah, but if there's something evil, that's from ourselves, our an issue with our perspective, an issue with our understanding, limitation that we have. But then if our methodology is to look at our feelings and understand, first, we're not attributing that feeling itself to the creator, but understanding the creator is the source of it. Wouldn't it be confusing for someone if they're dealing with like negative feelings to like they apply the same template? Maybe I'm not supposed to have a template, I'm not sure.
and then just a quick I guess like where my confusion is that it seemed like, again, I think we're understanding kind of the same thing. Like it feels like Allah or the creator created a feeling, and if that feeling is created, he must feel the same. But it seems like no, it's that he like if you like where I'm confused is where I have a feeling and there must be a creator as the source of that feeling. Like I don't see the connection there. I think I lost it somewhere along the way. Like how is how am I supposed to see that the feeling that I feel has a source? Like, can you repeat that again?
Could we also take Zari's question and Ahmed, and then we can address them all?
I guess I was just maybe going to try and say what I understood from Brother Birkan's point, and maybe it might help with the points you guys just made. But I guess it goes back to like understanding that I feel like we're still stuck on the feelings being ours, and like I'm feeling this way because of something I did. Like even if it's a negative feeling, like I did something wrong and now I feel bad about it and it's my fault. But I think you would also have to take it in the fact that in the way that the like why do I feel bad about it? Like what about that aspect of it? That comes with sort of the like negative experience. Like I didn't create that either. So I think that is also given to us to maybe help us realize that what we did was bad and that we should learn from it, but none of that is coming from me. So like I think they play the same role. Like you can look at something that's beautiful or feel something beautiful and see that my appreciation of that beauty is also given to me. And then the same thing with something bad, or if I do something bad and feel bad, all of those feelings are also given to me. So either way, you're learning about beauty. Like it's beautiful that I feel bad that I did something wrong, because that is also showing me that an aspect of like mercy, because I understand, or I'm learning from that through this like negative feeling or bad feeling, that there's mercy there because I'm feeling bad, or mercy is given to me from that feeling, is how I understand it.
So I think like negative feelings in that sense, like if you do something bad and you have this negative feeling about yourself, is like understandable, like in a mercy sort of way. But like I think this is a I'm just having trouble with the way we're relating this feeling to how there must like this is from like this feeling sources from a creator that wants to be known. Because like the way I understood negative feelings was like, oh, if I have a feeling I want to kill this person, I hate this person, then wouldn't the technically the source be my ego and something that's wrong within me? And like like that's a horrible feeling. And the source shouldn't be attributed to the creator in that way. Because like all I understood from this was that like I like I don't see where you're making the connection from this text that we have these feelings and that's how we know that there must be a creator who's the beautiful one. Again, for beautiful, it's understandable, but like it's very tricky for some other feelings and how we as humans feel them. And of course, they're not directly translatable to an absolute creator because that's something that we cannot comprehend in a way. But it's still like if we think about the actual negative feelings and like, oh, I want to hurt this person, or oh, I want to commit this act that's not allowed by law, for example, like that's a feeling I wouldn't source to the creator.
There's also a comment, if you allow me. So there are multiple comments from Zara, but I guess the last comment is directly related to that. So if he doesn't mind, I will read the last one first. He says he's also having trouble understanding these conclusions. My feeling of one thing to be known is created in me by the creator. How can we extrapolate that to say, therefore, the creator must want to be known himself? So that's the summary of what people are asking. We are going from an action to an attribute of the creator. This is confusion, he says. And yes, we shouldn't do that. And that was the point. So it's not that when I like something, I say, oh, the creator must be liking it. So there is no such thing. I say, I have something in me. I have this, I like something, right? There's an attraction, let's say. I say, this is created. There must be a creator of this. How I know this? You go through the la ilaha illallah. Can you create this? Can you change your feelings? Can you create your feelings and so on and so forth? You say no. Can somebody else create my feelings? You said no, and so on and so forth. So there must be a creator of this feeling. And the same way, there must be a creator of the idea that I have, right? So the point would be, what is the purpose of this creation for me? And I would formulate it, again, from my perspective, what my creator wants from me by creating this. So when I say this, when I ask such a question, what does my creator wants from me? What do I say? Do I say there is a creator who wants something, and he thinks, okay, maybe I should create this in Birkan so that he will understand this and that? Do I imagine such a thing? Or do I just say, this is created in me, and everything in this life, including my feelings and so on and so forth, always has a meaning. Always there is a purpose. That's what I experience. So I say, what would be the purpose in this creation? This is what I mean when I say, what does my creator want from me? It's never imagining a God and a person, what is called personification of this God. Never. It will be a speculation. Okay? So when I say, for instance, God wants this, it's just a shortcut to explain this long journey. I go through the la ilaha illallah and so on and so forth. Okay? So when we say, yeah, Zara says, even for beauty and created liking beauty isn't something we extrapolate or reach through inductive logic and so on. So yes, yeah, we don't say, I like this, there must be, the creator also must be liking this and so on and so forth. Yeah. I say there must be a creator of this liking as well. So there must be something in this that I should understand. So going back to, I want to be known. Every artist I know, they want to be known. Every people with beautiful products, whatever, they want to be known. This is the fact, right? In our creation, except a few pathological cases. There are such cases that, you know, the people trying to burn their artwork and so on, so that nobody would see them. Always there are such exemptions so that we better understand the other one. This is the reality for me, right? And I look at the creation, I see beauty there. I see wisdom there. I see this beautiful artwork. What do I say then? Okay? What is the conclusion when I see there is such a beautiful artwork? I say, first, there must be a creator who's creating all these things. There must be a creator who is what? Wise. What do I mean? Whatever wisdom I see, he must be the source. There must be a creator who is wise. There must be a creator who is the most talented artist, whatever. I come to all these conclusions, and then I ask myself, what does my creator want from me? The same way I asked before. I'm not imagining a creator. I'm just asking what I extract from that through all these human feelings and so on and so forth. That I want to be known, everybody wants to be known and so on and so forth. then my conclusion is that whoever created all this wisdom and beauty in front of me, I must know him. That's what it means to say creator wants to be known. I'm not imagining a creator with this desire to be known. I say through everything I know in this creation, everything my creator tells me, he is the source of all these ideas, all these feelings, and so on. Who is the creator of this beauty and the artwork? I say then I must know him. That's my conclusion about me and my perspective of the creation. Does it now make sense? It's never trying to imagine an attribute of the creator. And then when Quran says, now going back to Zarar's other comments, the first one, the creator must tell us, explains us about his properties and whatever, and so on. I say this, I come to this conclusion, and then Quran says, your creator, who is the wise one? Who is the most talented one? Who wants to be known? And so on and so forth. When Quran tells this, I say, yes, this is true. And this fits to my reality. I can confirm that, I say. And then sometimes I make wrong conclusions as well, right? So Quran comes and say that, okay, this conclusion of you was right. Does it make sense now?
Like that was very beautifully put. It does make sense, but like I still have an issue with the knowing part because like how I see the creation and like how I feel is like I'm not seeing wisdom all the time. Like for me, a lot of life is like it is not beautifully created or anything because I cannot see it. But I do believe like there is a wise one and who must have created, but I do not see that wisdom. So I feel and see everything as a test. So for example, even there is a flower in front of me, and there is this feeling of beauty or like created in me that I have to see it as beautiful, and that is my test right there. And that is how I see like my whole life as well. Is like everything is a test for me. Even there is this ayah Quran 39:52. It says like even if you get something good from your creator that you think it is very good, like you get money, you get anything, that is a test for you. You think, oh, I am blessed or anything. No, that is also a test for you. So I would say like reaching to that conclusion, it's very beautiful. Like there must be a creator who is giving me all of these feelings. But like how I see it, or like where I differ with Nursi's, Sayyid Imam Nursi's perspective is like instead of wanting to be known, it should be like it's a test from my creator. He is testing me and he is like yeah, just a test and like teaching me.
May I say something very quick?
Yeah, no.
So when we say this is a test or he wants to be known and so on, so there must be a basis for that. We cannot just say, I prefer this over that. So that's what Imam Nursi is doing. He says, let's look at the creation. Do I see this knowledge? Do I see this artwork? And do I see this feeling of appreciation is being created in me? Do I see that? Then he says the conclusion is I must be appreciating my creator. In other words, again, once we have this understanding, now we can safely say my creator wants to be appreciated. Like I can say this now because I know what I mean. I mean, I see this beauty there. I see that the feeling of the appreciation is created in me, and I must be appreciating it. I should give its due, let's say, to its creation. That's what I mean when I say my creator wants to be appreciated. Okay? If you say No. When I look at the creation, I see these things around me. Everything is enigmatic. And this feeling of the idea of constantly being tested and so on is created with me. And this is what I see with other people as well. Everybody feels like they are being tested constantly. If this is the experience, then you say that, okay, then the creator wants to test us. For instance, you can say that. But there must be a base in your conclusion from the creation. It's always starting from the creation, come to the conclusion. Otherwise, when we say, no, I think God is making fun of us. No, I think God is challenging us. Where did you come up with such an idea? Is life is full of challenges, making fun of? When you say, yeah, I believe there's an all-wise God and so on and so forth, but I don't see wisdom all the time. It's kind of contradictory, right? You know your creator is wise to the extent you see wisdom there. So in every moment, you have to go through La ilaha illallah. You see wisdom, and then you ask who created this wisdom. If you cannot find, then you say the creator must be the wise one. That's what it means. I believe in the wise one. If you don't seek wisdom in the creation, even if you force yourself, you cannot believe that the creator is all wise. At least within this moment.
So reeling it back in, right? I think after you like responded right to our questions, I think it's very much more clear. And I think what you're trying to say is that Allah communicates with us through the feelings He creates. So 100% the feelings that we feel must have a source, because like how you explained, when we go through La ilaha illallah, we can't create these feelings on our own. No one else can create it for us. Therefore, there must be an absolute creator that puts this feeling in us and tries to communicate something. Now, I think that even replies to Ahmed's and like the bad feelings, like the bad feelings we feel, like they're not necessarily because we should attribute those to Allah, but they like He is the source, and in there He's trying to tell us something. And in that line, I think is an issue where I may be confused. I'm trying not to get confused right now, but the I feel appreciation, therefore my creator wants to be appreciated works, but that's something that works, and I think works because we analyze our feelings and we put it against Quran or against prophetic example. And not all of the feelings that we feel have a direct translation to something that we should feel towards our creator. For example, appreciation is one, but if we feel jealousy, like that is a feeling that our creator creates in us to try to have us understand something, communicate with us, but maybe it's not a feeling that we are supposed to be feeling. It's not a feeling that Allah would even want us to feel all the time, right? Like it's something that Allah puts in us, and maybe we should, read Quran, come to these discussions and figure out like what it says about ourselves, but not necessarily something that's like directly translatable, which is I think like um why it can be confusing. Like what about the bad feelings? Well, the bad feelings are not necessarily something that again should be attributed to Allah, but instead we should see them as a message, and we should like again, what does Quran say about this feeling that I'm feeling, stuff like that.
So I feel like if we come back to the ayah again, it's like the Quran or the creator is getting our attention and putting our attention on these specific things. And I feel like that's at least my understanding of it. And we have discussed this before in previous discussions, how in one, like in some ways, the purpose of the creation is for us to know Allah. Like Allah doesn't, or the creator doesn't have a need to be known by us, because and it's for our benefit to know the creator through his creation. And I feel like the way Imam Nursi starts the 11th word with this ayah, which is drawing our attention to the sun, the moon, and all these majestic creations, which I feel like later on he refers to them in the story as like the jewels or the ornaments that the palace is decorated with. So my understanding is that all these, at least these bigger signs, should ultimately lead us to the creator. I personally just think that if we start going to the, like, going to the creator or reaching the conclusion that there's a creator through the feelings that we feel, I feel like I feel like that's a slippery slope where some of the feelings we, like, not everyone might be able to attribute them, or like somehow understand how it's sourced from the creator and what the creator wants, like, us to understand from that feeling. Because again, I still cannot make sense, like, if I really want to hurt someone, like, isn't, like, my understanding was that this is a feeling that's from my nafs, like that's from the corruption that I have in me, that's from how I have, like, corrupted my soul over time, and this is something that I'm feeling, and that sort of feeling shouldn't technically tell us anything about the creator in a way.
I think also going back to this surah, one thing I noticed was that um it starts out by talking about these creations that are sort of balancing each other out. So like two contrasting kind of images with like the sun and the moon and the day and the night, the earth and the sky. And then it talks about the soul and how it is also ordered and proportioned in a similar way, where you have the period of day followed by the period of night, and so on and so forth. You have the moon that follows its orbit, the sun that follows its orbit, and there's this balance there. And I think the same can be applied with like everything else in creation, including our feelings. So when we're talking about, I know I keep bringing this back to our feelings, but I think it can just be said broadly that that things are created with a proportion, and that includes my experiences. And so even though we may not see the wisdom in it, so there might be things that happen to me that I'm like, I have no idea like why this is suddenly happening. Um, like maybe it's not like, maybe the first instinct is to like try to like come to like this wisdom on my own, instead of like taking a step back, revisiting the fact that everything is created with this proportion, and then kind of just I don't know if waiting is the right way to say this, but maybe being content in the fact that there is a wisdom, even if I don't see it or know it yet. It may be given to me at some other point in time that is the perfect time for me to like know the reason why this happened. Um, so I just wanted to point that out. And I guess when I was kind of thinking about it like this, I think I don't really see the I guess if the surah is describing sort of these contrasts, I feel like the image of the palace kind of doesn't give the same, like I feel like the analogy there loses some aspects, because you're given this image of this perfect beautiful palace that's filled with jewels and like things that are basically the same type of like treasure, like glittery treasure. Whereas the surah is talking about like these like opposing, maybe not opposing, but contrasting like imagery in the creation. So I'm not sure like why. I'm just talking about not like, I guess like alternating, like changing between two like states. I guess with the sun and the moon, day and night, those are like two, like you understand the presence of like the creator from like the changes you see. So I just don't know how that connects to this example of like the palace, where maybe it's just broadly to say like the world is a palace, and or the universe is a palace and we see all these things that exist within it. Maybe it's not like directly referring to the surah, but I just got a bit confused there. Um, just because when it talks about the two groups, it says that both were invited to the palace. And so I just don't see how one group cannot see that they're in a palace if they were invited and they know they were. Maybe the point is they didn't know that they were invited to the palace, but yeah, it just seemed a bit of a strange example to me, I guess. I don't know if
Yeah.
that, but yeah, I guess it just seems hard for me to, like, in my perspective, if I see that I'm in a palace, I wouldn't like immediately go, or if I'm like a guest in someone's house, I wouldn't immediately go indulge myself in whatever I see, I guess is my thinking. But and I don't think people, even if they don't call themselves Muslim, would do that either. So it's just
Just to make some comments. Don't forget what you're about to say. So we don't lose the thread. Going to the palace about the day and night and the contrast. I think Nursi further on he does talk about that briefly about the thread of night and day and the change aspect of it. I would challenge you on or not challenge you, but I would say as someone who lives, let's say, in the palace of earth, for sure there are times I definitely, even though I realize it's a palace most of the time, or let's say I know, yeah, I should realize it's a palace, I still heavily indulge, or don't follow it, or I just go down very odd paths. So it could happen. And I didn't want to forget Ahmed's comments. So the first one, was this idea, what was the first thing you said? It was the second thing you said was about needs. The first one you said no. Oh yeah, needs. The first one was about needs. So you said you made this comment like the creator, like the creation exists so we know him. He doesn't need us to know him. I just wanted to come to this statement, and I think it's good that we really stayed on this for an hour. Like, we're going to stay on this stuff for when we end soon, just this one paragraph, because it's very difficult. And I think even this comes to the point of why we need revelation, why we need a prophet, why we need messengers and guides, because it is difficult to understand. Because even now, we're not like coming off a blank slate and trying to understand this. We've had, let's say, many studies, and we're still struggling to understand this. But coming to this, like the creator doesn't have a need. This, again, if I approach this from a conclusion perspective or my experience perspective, I would say I have no power to do anything. I can't create, I can't destroy, I can't do whatever. Like there's no need, I can't do anything for the creator. So obviously the creator has no need of anything from me. But at the same time, I see that whatever I'm doing or whatever I look at, it's always speaking to me over creator. Whatever I enjoy is like whenever I can find a meaning in something, whenever I can read something, see what it points to, find the purpose in it, find the wisdom in it, find where my creator is in it, find the reflection of his names on something, and thereby I could say he wants me, or he's pulling me, he's encouraging me, teaching me. I see my whole life he's teaching me to know about him. He doesn't need me to know about him. For sure, there's no need aspect to it, but I see that everything around me is kind of pushing me down this direction. I think that's one way to understand it. And then the negative feelings one, because I mean, I think negative feelings we could leave to the end, actually, maybe in like a different day. Because first, even the positive ones, like, are we even set there? But for the negative feelings one, I think if we're honest with ourselves, like even let's say like I have this feeling of greed or waste or killing or harming or all these different things. I mean, we call them negative from the outset anyways. Like we're like, we don't like these feelings. Like, okay, let's say I might one day get greedy and go do something, but I also know that there's consequences of that greed. I see that where it hurts me. I see where now my worldview becomes darker, things around me become darker. I'm killing all these messages. So I do think there's also feedback there to say my creator doesn't want me to commit waste and harm and these kinds of things. I just wanted to address those before we move on. I will take whose hands. I know Kadir was your hand up, so I will just take the last just those comments, and if it's too long, we might have to end. But let's see.
I just wanted to add one last thing between the two different groups, how Imam Nursi clearly explains that as for the second group, their minds were corrupted, their hearts were extinguished, and when they entered the palace, they were defeated by their evil commanding souls. So I feel like this also helps with the negative feelings thing. That's like, this is what I understand, that it's our evil commanding souls. It's something where our minds are corrupted, where we get those feelings from, s- specifically the negative ones. And I feel like just like trying to use the feeling to get to the creator in a way, I think that's just, yeah, it's a little confusing.
So, oh, it is on. Yeah, we call it corrupted soul, or doesn't matter. The question is always, who creates this? The story is always la ilaha illallah, nothing else. When you have a terrible imagery in your mind, who created this? That's the question. Forget about, sugarcoating anything, blaming anything or anything like that. Who created this terrible imagery in my mind? Is it your soul that created this imagery? It's like I see some terrible things that I don't like, let's say. Who created this? Can I, oh, it's my corrupted soul. Can I create such an imagery in my mind? If I can, I would constantly create like a very beautiful things. Because I'm even, myself disturbed by this terrible imagery. I cannot create it. So just try to solve some religious dilemma, let's say. We cannot just invent names and say that, oh, yeah, it is my, the corrupt soul who gives this. Who created this? You have to answer this question. We have to answer this question. And the answer is always whoever created my mind, whoever controls my mind, who created this imagery. One day, a scholar, she was asking, people asking, how can God create these dying children? She says, how can you explain otherwise a dying children? You see a dying children, a kid, can you explain this event that you are seeing? Without coming to a conclusion, there must be all-powerful, all-merciful, whatever, God who creates this event in front of me. If you can, ask such questions. But we always take it backward. God wouldn't want me to look at such things or think about such things. Forget about that. All you know is that something is created in your mind, and who created this? That's the only question. Always, with no exception, you come to the conclusion that whoever created me and my mind can control everything, must be creating this image. What does it mean? It's another story. You have to ask this question as well, and you cannot take it in isolation. To me, I don't know about the hypothetical examples, but to me, I always have these terrible, sometimes naughty, sometimes, crimeful images, ideas, and so on and so forth. When I have this, I also have some other ideas feelings and so on accompanying that. I feel terrible, for instance. I feel unjust in this idea, so on and so forth. I ask the same questions. Who created all these as well? So you have to go through La ilaha illallah every moment. Otherwise, nothing we say would mean much. Sorry. I think there was a problem with the sound. Just let me check for a moment. Beautiful, like good feelings, bad feelings, good ideas, bad ideas, doesn't matter. Who created them? And you cannot, yes, you are right, that we cannot take something and create it in us or somewhere else, sun, and say that the God must be the hot one because it's hot. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't work that way. You just say, whoever created this powerful thing I see, right, must be powerful. What I mean, he must be the source of all power I see. That's all. When I see something, the terrible, do I say, oh, the one who created this must be terrible? No, it doesn't make sense. Just like it doesn't make sense, he is so beautiful. You don't say that. You say, he is the one who creates this. Beautiful or not. Who is the one? He is the one creates this. What it means to you, what is the meaning for you, then you have to think it in as a whole, not in isolation. Then you say, everywhere I look, I see, everywhere I look, I see beauty, but I have seen something really ugly here. How am I going to make sense of it? You say. Then you cannot find the answer. Hence, you are looking for revelation. And then revelation comes and explains, even in this ugly thing that you thought was ugly, there is a beauty in it. Revelation explains. But to Zarar points, he says, oh, no, you cannot think of such things and come conclusions. You have to believe revelation and read it from the revelation. That's, in a caricaturized way, what I understood from Hiron. And it would be just, okay, you Muslim, believe what you read in Quran. You Christians, believe what you read in Bible, and so on and so forth. You have to start from the creation, come to some conclusions, or cannot come to some conclusions, need some answers, and open the book Revelation, which gives you the answer, and you see whether it fits to your reality or not. When Revelation tells you God wants to be known, you say, everything I see, this creation, it fits to that. When Revelation says God is the most beautiful, you say, whatever I experience in this reality tells this is true. Then you can make sense of it, not the other way around. I think Zara is trying to talk with microphones.
You insulted.
I don't know. Let me see.
Yeah.
Okay. Zara, we cannot hear you. Your mic is on, but we cannot hear you.
Just add a little comment on what Ahmed was saying about the negative feelings. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's all about a test, and you being here to learn about your creator and about yourself is like, if you get those negative feelings, it is there to teach you something, and you should look into your own self, like why it is there, and then negate it in a way, and then like learn what your creator is telling you. And then what Birkan said right now, I would want it to be discussed further in the next discussion as to how to take the revelation. Because for me, revelation would come first, and then you can see if your reality fits into what Quran says or not.
Jazakallah khairan for all these comments. It's definitely a loaded topic, I think. Did you want to? Okay, let's end with Zirin and let's pass it over to her.
It was kind of like a challenge to your challenge earlier. So I think I understand that, like, even if there are, like, even if I see myself in a palace, like, there are still moments, like, where I want to indulge. I guess I'm just having trouble understanding, like, it's the same palace with the same jewels. Everything in this palace is described as extremely beautiful. There doesn't seem to be anything that is flawed. So I'm just wondering how these two groups emerge then, if that's the case. Like, are we gonna talk about, like, I don't know, I guess the satanic aspect of, like, this other external force that might be pushing me to, like, think that things are not, or deceive me into thinking that this palace isn't perfect, even though, like, from the imagery that Nursi is describing, it seems pretty clear that it's a beautiful palace. So I just don't understand how these two groups are kind of emerging and, like, how that connects.
Okay.
But yeah, that could be for next time.
Yeah, I think hopefully we'll get to that next time, and definitely the two groups. I would even question, why are there two, like as you said, why are there two groups? What makes one of them one way, the other one the other way? That's definitely, I think, a very important topic to talk about. Inshallah, I will conclude here. And let's, I guess, this week think about what creation is telling us and try to read that on a blank slate. So سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم أن الحمد لله رب العالمين. And before I said Fatiha, just like even this dua we always end with, it always says there is no knowledge except that which you give us. Even there we say this knowledge is not from us, it is given. This discussion, what we're trying to learn, coming together, it's a knowledge that's given. It's a dua we're asking.